Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to another client success interview for the PTBI Takeover program. Today we have Andi Wisdom, who is a rock star of a client. She joined PTBI last year and has slowly grown her business. She's gone through a lot of growth phases personally, but recently she just hit a massive stride in her business. I think she went from 2 to 3K or around 5K per month, and now she's scaling beyond 10K per month with a full team. So I want to introduce her and talk about her experience going through the Takeover program. So Andi, welcome. Why don't you go ahead and start with, just telling people, who you are, what your business is, and where you're at now.
Yeah, hi guys. So I'm Andi. I live in Texas. I started my business. It hasn't even really been a year ago yet. And I remember when I first started, I heard everyone talking about doing a 5K month or a 10K month. And I was just like, I don't understand how that could ever happen for me. Last month, we almost hit 12K. That was a huge stride for us. I now have 2 employees, which I also never really saw that happening either. And so it's just been a great experience for me. I was able to quit my job as a nurse. I'm working full time from home now. I'm able to make my own schedule. Just like everything's coming together.
Yeah, it sounds like you're living the dream. Um, which is interesting though, because you came into this business with a lot of, I would say, not self-doubt, but for sure limiting beliefs, or just, like you mentioned, you questioned how are you people even making, 5, 10K per month, but you still did it. Right. And so what was the thought process behind these doubts where you're like, I don't know if this is possible, or I don't know if I can ever get there, but then still doing it anyway? What's that about?
I think one thing that helped me was just like showing up regardless of how I was feeling and just becoming that authority figure. Like I knew that I had the information that my clients needed and I knew that I could help them get from point A to point B. It was just like convincing myself that I had the information and that I was capable of doing that. So I think that, just identifying those limiting beliefs and then pushing through them.
Gotcha. So tell me about your first 6 months in business, because I know it was definitely a slow start. And then your last 6 months have been like a rocket. So what was the difference between, or what happened your first 6 months and what happened your second 6 months? And what was the difference between the two?
So the first 6 months, I think I just wasn't really like completely buying in. I was still getting majority of my income from my nursing job. I was just like taking it slow, learning everything slowly. I have a tendency to do everything like to the extreme. And I didn't want this to be something like that. I wanted it to be something that I kind of allowed myself to go at my own pace. But I think that I kind of did that a little bit too much. And so then whenever I started Takeover, it was like I was like, all right, I'm ready to like push this to the next level. And that's when I was able to go from 3K months to a 12K month, within a pretty short amount of time. So I think that's what really like pushed me to get out of my comfort zone. I had read a book kind of at the beginning of the year, and it was talking about how if you really want that success, like you have to be friends with getting out of your comfort zone. Like
Mhm.
you have to really become accustomed to always pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And that's something that I really try to instill in my clients. And so I was like, I have to do this for myself too.
I love that. I love that. So, what were some concerns about going into Takeover? Because you had started your business, you're making about 3 to 5K per month. You were just working on your own, and with Takeover, you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to hire an AC. I'm gonna have to hire a VA. I'm gonna have to learn a whole new leg of business. So, what were the big concerns that you had about going into Takeover?
So I think that first of all, I'm kind of a control freak. So it was scary for me to hire people and trust them to do things that I'd been doing, and that I felt like I was doing pretty well at the time. So that was kind of an issue that I had in the beginning. I feel like if it hadn't been for Takeover, I probably would have never known where to begin to hire people and probably would have never taken that next step because I would have just been too paralyzed by like, how do I do this? But Takeover being part of Takeover made it super simple to be a like I was like, really, this is all I have to do to hire someone. Like it just made it really easy. And so that was a big barrier that I think I had in the beginning was like being willing to give up some control. But I knew that in order to scale, I was gonna have to do that. Like I can't do it all on my own. And so that was huge for me. Um, I don't know. I feel like there was other stuff, but like, I can't think of anything right now.
What was the
Like,
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's always scary to invest in yourself,
Mhm.
but I also feel like investing in yourself is the biggest or the best investment that you can make. Like, we'll spend all this money going to college, but then when it comes to something that's actually going to propel you forward, it's like you're scared to invest that money, but then it comes back to you tenfold.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I totally understand what you're saying. That's what I've been preaching my whole life. Um, when it came to hiring your virtual assistant, were there any concerns about handing your DMs off to someone else? And how has the VA changed your business as far as your time, your scalability? Like, how has that helped you?
I feel like DMs were something that I always kind of avoided doing, just because I felt like I constantly had to be on my phone, and I'm really like resistant to that. Um, Having the VA, I was worried about someone being me, like someone pretending to be me. But it's really been a good back and forth process of her learning how I speak to people, always being like a checks and balances system. And it's not like she's just in my DMs running wild. It's
Mhm.
a very like controlled, systematic process. So it's been a lot better than I thought it would be.
What's so interesting is every time I hire somebody to do a job that I have been doing in my business, I realize that I'm not as smart as I thought I was. I was like, this person can come in here and pretend to be me and do an even better job than I can. I'm like, it's kind of humbling.
Yeah.
So how has the VA helped your business? What kind of benefits have you seen from it?
I definitely have a greater call volume incoming now. So once I finally got my VA and got her going, I think the most calls I had ever taken in a month was like 11, and last month I did 22.
Wow.
And so I doubled that, and that was all from her. I mean, not all of those calls were from her, but I would say probably 75% of those calls were from messages that she sent out. And she's sending out, so many messages a day that that's not something that I was really willing to commit 8 hours of the day to doing.
Mhm.
And so it's like the amount that I pay her, she brings that back to me so quickly. And so it's definitely worth it.
Incredible. That's so awesome. Now, how's your assistant coach? What's that process been like for you?
She's been really good. So I hired an assistant coach that hadn't been a coach before. So it was a little bit of a learning curve, just kind of teaching her like how to do all the protocols and things. But I think that was another just piece of me having to let go of something. She's doing amazing now. So now it's just kind of like, again, that checks and balances system where she's, giving forth the protocols and doing all the steps, but it was just again a process of like letting her know how everything works in my business and like how to transfer that over. But she's doing awesome. And there comes a point where you can't continue to scale unless you have an assistant coach.
Mhm. Dude, this is all really amazing. And so what do you do now with your time? Now you don't have to do any outreach, you don't have to do as much fulfillment. So what are you focusing on now as the CEO of your business?
So really I'm just focusing in on like marketing to try to bring in more ideal clients. And also focusing on like spending some more time on my personal growth. And like things that I want to do to enjoy life and not just being grinding 24/7 like I would if I was having to take on all the roles in the business. That gives you like zero free time. So I've really enjoyed having more free time back to myself.
I love that. I love that. Do you have any kind of words of advice for someone who is at that 3 to 5K mark and is, hesitant to, scale or doesn't think they're ready to scale or, is afraid to let go of control? What kind of advice would you have someone who's looking over the edge of takeover?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you feel like you're not ready to scale, that's a really good indicator that you are. Um, you, you need to like start putting the people in place that are going to be able to help you scale your business to the next level. So, like, think to yourself, if I did some amazing marketing this month and I brought in 20 new clients, would I be able to take those on myself? And if you can't, then you know that that is something that's holding you back in your business because you're scared to bring more people in. And so it just like keeps backing you up further. So I don't know. I would say hire before you're ready because that's going to push you to grow your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I say the same thing too. Is like if you are at the 15 to 20 client mark and you're consistently growing, you got to hire because you're eventually going to get stuck and capped out. And once you're capped out, you're not going to have the time to hire. You're eventually going to fall back to where you were.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Andi, thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience with Takeover. I am extremely, extremely proud of your growth, and it's really, really heartening to hear that your team is doing awesome too. So, any last words that you want to share before we end this?
I don't think so. I just want to say, like, you have to believe in yourself. You have to hold tight to your values and believe in your journey. And like, don't be afraid to push yourself to the next level. Like, if you've made it this far, you can do it. You just got to take that next step.
Perfect. Andi, thank you so much.
Thank you.